guys, have you ever felt like you're wandering aimlessly through life, like some character in a video game? Trust me, I know the feeling. Listen, it's time to hit pause and tune into Beverly Explains It All. Join me as we have candid conversations with guests and friends and talk about everything under the sun. Let's figure out what really makes you tick. If you're curious about life and learning how to enjoy the present, let's go down this road of self-discovery so together we can purposely find your purpose. Allow me to ask the questions you're thinking, introduce you to new ideas, and help you live your best life. Come with me on this journey as Beverly explains it all. Hi guys, welcome to Beverly Explains It All. I have a wonderful episode today. I'm really excited. This is Karolina Rzadkowolska. Hey Karolina.
Hi Beverly, I'm so excited too.
Yay! Karolina is an alcohol-free empowerment coach and a best-selling author. Her book is Euphoric: Ditch Alcohol and Gain a Happier, More Confident You. Karolina, I just want to kind of roll into things. Of course, I'm going to want to hear more about that, but I usually play a quick little 5-question icebreaker game with my guests. Are you into that?
Let's do it.
Wonderful. Okay. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Time travel.
Ooh, why?
Just to be able to see different parts of the world at different eras. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love to travel, so I'm all about that.
That or teleportation. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one too, man. Now you got me thinking. What's your favorite sport?
Ooh, dance? Does that count?
I count that as a sport. I mean, when I was a cheerleader back in high school, honestly, that was like one of the times I think I was in the best shape of my life, you know?
Yeah,
so
I was a ballerina.
Oh, that's why you have that ballerina body. I'm jealous.
Thank you.
Would you rather live in the past, the present, or the future?
I want to say the future, but I think the answer is the present, right? Like everything's happening in the present.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to say that because your life is pretty freaking amazing, and I can't wait to get into that more. Do you have any weird or unusual habits?
I love to tweeze.
Really? Tweeze what?
Not my eyebrows. I have a little bit more facial hair on my chin and stuff. And maybe I should get this electrolysis off, but I love to tweeze. I travel everywhere with my tweezers.
Oh my gosh. Wow. You're not alone with the chin hair. I always have one stubborn chin hair and I'm like, what is happening? And I do not enjoy tweezing it. I need you around. Okay, last question. Do you feel like you're currently living your best life?
Yes. I can wholeheartedly say yes to that. Yeah. It wasn't always the case.
Okay. What a fantastic feeling. I mean, on that note, can you please tell my listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, thank you for the lovely introduction. As Beverly mentioned, I'm an alcohol-free empowerment coach, and really my life exploded in the best possible way when I decided to reevaluate my own relationship with alcohol. And it propelled me into these dreams and goals that I always kind of put on the someday burner. And I just started knocking them off and becoming the completely different, better version of myself. I launched a coaching business. I launched a podcast. I wrote a book. I started, traveling the world more. And then literally 5-6 years later, I'm, like you said, living my best life and living in this dream reality where I get to help other people not only question their relationship with alcohol, but also kind of discover what does true fulfillment look like. And I run a certification program that helps other coaches be able to facilitate that work for their clients as well. And I love coaching on business too, because I think so many of us are so entrepreneurial and that we have such big missions that we're meant to put into the world. So I kind of do this full spectrum in my business. But like you said, I'm an author as well. And I am just living out my passions, you could say. I take something I'm passionate about and I teach about it and I showcase that to the world and I really delve into that really deeply. And that's, I think, something that's so fulfilling to me.
It's so incredible. I mean, just can you name a few of the countries that you visited? I mean, she just got back from Brazil and I'm like, whoa, but you travel all the time. And I see these pictures on your IG and I'm like, oh my God, she's here now.
Yeah, and just to show, like I used to work in a cubicle. I used to like I traveled, but it was like squeezing in travel into the, little 1 week or 2 week I had off. It was so hard. And then my husband always had a like demanding job where he couldn't take time off. So to live the freedom lifestyle we now live, where we can literally go anywhere we want into the world, like I'm often hosting retreats in Bali. I love to go to Japan. I love to be in Europe every summer. I just got back from Brazil. I'm off to the Maldives next. Like it is the dream because travel to me is like one of my biggest values and that sense of freedom that I think you get from it.
My God, you just named like bucket list destinations for me. I'm like, check, check, Bali, yes, check. Oh my God. Okay. Well, obviously, everyone's going to want to know how this all happened. So, my first question to kind of start things off is, can you share a pivotal moment in your life where you just realized that your relationship with alcohol was actually hindering your personal growth and purpose?
Yes. So I think alcohol is one of the weirdest topics we have in society because we think of it in such black and white ways. It's either like you're normal and you drink socially and everything's dandy, or you drink way too much, it's embarrassing, you have a problem, and now you have to label yourself for the rest of your life.
Mm,
And as I've worked on this for so many years now, that's not reality. Like everyone is on a spectrum when it comes to how much they drink or how they relate to alcohol. And most people live in what's called a gray area. And so for
mm,
me personally, I drank a lot in college and grad school. I was really introverted growing up. So when I started drinking in college, I really like blossomed into this extroverted version of myself. It was like everything I wanted to be, I thought was unlocked with alcohol. And so
mm,
obviously I start using it as a tool over and over again. It's the only way I know how to really socialize and kind of come out of my shell. And I party a lot. Like I just had that identity back then. And as I get older, as I get into like my mid to late 20s, I settle down, I get married, I like start my career, I'm trying to get healthier too, I'm getting more into mindfulness. And so basically drinking kind of gets relegated only into the weekend. And Monday through Thursday, I'm living quite a healthy life. I, go running, I drink green juices, I go to yoga classes, but then every single weekend, alcohol is around. And it's either I'm hanging out socially with friends or maybe I'm just like, having some wine at home with Netflix. It doesn't matter though. Every weekend it is around. And every single Monday morning, I wake up feeling a shell of myself. It
mm.
almost feels like I took 2 steps forward in my healthy progress during the week and then 5 steps backward over the weekend. And I start to like in college, drinking was a little bit, it was more drinking, I'll tell you that, but it was a little bit more carefree. At this point in my life, I'm really noticing that cognitive dissonance. Like I really hate the effect. And so Monday, Tuesday go by, I'm like, I really don't want to drink this week. And then I'm invited to go to sushi or a happy hour with my friends. And I forget all about it by the end of the week. I literally live in this cycle for 7 years. Every
Mm.
single Monday morning, I just get this download, this like message from my intuition. Karolina, you're made for more than this. Because at this point, it feels like a merry-go-round. It feels like so cyclical. Like I'm back here
Yeah.
again. I'm back here again. I'm back here again. I didn't get good sleep again. I have to wake up even though I don't feel good again. And I
Mm.
just don't see a way out of it because I keep thinking to myself that if you stop drinking, you're going to have to label yourself. You're going to have to go to meetings, like all the stuff I didn't want to do. And it wasn't until I heard about Dry January that something unlocked for me that I was like, oh, I could just take a break from alcohol. I don't have to explain it to anyone. And it's also like kind of more recognized socially, like Dry January. And so I finally allow myself to do that. And I love it. Like, I love it. I love how I feel every day. I feel proud of myself. I like see myself getting more closer to nature. I'm really enjoying
Yeah.
my hikes more and stuff like that. February comes around, and I kind of had this belief that, well, Dry January is over. If you want to be a normal adult, you have to drink. So I start drinking again in February, and I hate it. Like
Mm.
even 1, 2 drinks completely robs me of a sense of presence. I was getting high on life in January and
Yeah.
February, with the drinks. It's just like I don't feel that awe anymore. My sleep is like funky, and I'm just like, wait a minute. I thought I was drinking because it was fun. And I don't think this is fun. And so at that moment, I decide not only am I going to take another break from alcohol, I'm going to unpack everything I subconsciously believe about alcohol and what it's doing for me and completely change my relationship with it, which I did over the next coming weeks to the point where I lost my desire to drink. I have never wanted to drink since then. There's no craving. There's no like, oh, I wish I could have a glass because those people are and I'm not. Like, I rewrote every little neural pathway in my brain that desired alcohol and overrode it. And at the same time, I started bolstering my own self-worth and my own self-esteem. Not drinking that long just like really made me feel so much more confident. Like every day I was showing up for myself and doing the things I wanted to do. My courage was growing too, because I was doing something in a society that doesn't understand it, right? And that makes you feel like an outcast if you're not drinking. So my courage, confidence, self-love, self-worth, self-esteem, all of those things are going up. And all of a sudden, this thing that I thought I could never do, I started applying it to other areas of my life. I never thought I could be an author. I never thought I could be an entrepreneur. And all of a sudden, I'm like, well, why not? If I could do this, why couldn't I do those things? And it just unlocked this sense of power and this ferocity inside of me and this audacity to go after these dreams like I always had, but wasn't doing anything about. And that changed everything for me. And now I just find such a bigger sense of fulfillment in making an impact and living my dream life and coaching and all the things and the learning experience I get to have. Like alcohol just became the smallest little thing in my rear view window. And I really have this philosophy that a lot of the successful people I look up to, alcohol does not play a big role in their life either. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how it shifted. And so I think that in a nutshell was the origin story of like why I had that like epiphany eventually of like living such a more empowered life without alcohol.
I mean, it's so true what you say, like, especially like the older we get, like your body just doesn't even process alcohol the way it used to. So waking up on that Monday morning where it's like, oh my God, why? Like, what did I do over the weekend? Even just like a couple of glasses of whatever, it's like, everything is different. And I definitely agree with you where I feel like it stifles creativity and just like motivation,
Yeah. And I think that's what was so interesting for me is like I stopped asking myself the question, do I have a problem? Because that's like such a stupid question to ask. Like, do you have a problem compared to who? Like, do you have a problem
Right.
compared to the person who's like living under a bridge? No, you don't, right? So we have these stereotypes in our minds of what a problem looks like, and nobody wants to be a problem. So our brain doesn't like go there. I think the better questions to ask is like, is this truly fulfilling me? Or even, is this helping me achieve my bigger goals and dreams? Or is it aligned with my values? Or is it even helping me become the version of myself I want to be? Because I don't I don't like want to stigmatize or demoralize drinking like as a whole. And obviously it played a role in my life for a reason when it did, but that is like an outdated version of me. Like there was this outdated shy version of me that needed alcohol in order to come out of her shell in college. That's not who I am anymore. That's not who I'm growing into at all. And it really kind of lost its purpose, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. Wow. Gosh, there's so much to unpack there. Another question I have is, as someone who's public about being alcohol free, you kind of already answered this, but like, how do you deal with that stigma that still exists? Like, oh, you're no fun if you don't drink, or just people who are in fear, like with others, like what they'll think about them if they're just actually sober curious. I mean, you've kind of said your experience, but like, I know, like for me, example, like I feel like I drink socially, but then sometimes it's like, oh, I drink too much, But also then it's like if you go to a party and it's like, well, I'm not drinking. There's so many questions, and it's like, well, how do you kind of get over that stigma?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I think that the two things that usually come up is either you're worried that people will assume negative things about you, like I have a problem or she drinks too much or something happened, or that you're boring or somehow you're not like hip, right? That you're not with it.
Especially when you're younger, like the college years, like people who didn't drink, you kind of looked at them sideways like, what? Who are you?
Yeah. And so it was really interesting as I started unpacking my own relationship with alcohol. I got really into the statistics and some of the studies around it. And I list a lot of those in my book, Euphoric, Ditch Alcohol. And what's really surprising to me was that I learned that over 60% of people who drink actually overdrink. So 60%, the majority of people who are drinking overdrink. So this is no longer like a 1 or 2% people are having, too many drinks and you're the embarrassing one. Everyone and their mom is over drinking basically because the health guidelines are actually really, really low and they keep getting lower as we speak, Beverly. So Canada just changed theirs where only 1 drink a week for a woman is considered like, okay. Anything more than that is considered heavy, risky drinking, right? Wow. So like we're all over drinking as a society for the first place. 52% of people, and this was done back like 6 years ago, so I think this is much higher now, but 52% of people admitted that they wish that they drank less or not at all. So that Monday morning feeling that like you went through, I've gone through, we're not alone in feeling like there's no person on this planet who wakes up after drinking and is like, I feel like $1,000,000, because biologically that's impossible. Biologically, alcohol is a poison. It's a toxin. Our body has to work overtime in order to detox it from the body. It impairs our sleep. It impairs our hormones. It is always going to do a number on your body. When you're younger, you can almost deal with it. But like you said, as you get older, you really feel it. So like the fact that someone wants to drink less or not at all shouldn't really be surprising, knowing the effect of alcohol on us. So I just stopped thinking of it as embarrassing at all, to like want to just be in tune with my health and my body and do what's right for me. And then I think the thing about like, you know, alcohol being like, oh, you're not fun, or why aren't you drinking? Like you're boring or something like that. I think alcohol is one of the more common ways that we bond as a society than anyone else. Like you said, almost everyone drinks. So it's almost like the really unique people, the ones who are the rebels in our society, are the ones who aren't drinking. So it's almost like this way of thinking, instead of being like one with the sheep, like being a wolf and stuff. And I remember going to my first few parties after I made this mindset change, and I was bringing alcohol-free beer, and I was like, look at what I'm drinking. Look at what this cool thing is. You don't have this. Like I almost made it
novelty.
pride. Exactly. And I started just learning about so many more successful people who don't drink. And it just started to become this new status symbol. Instead of the status symbol being like, oh, I have a martini and I'm sophisticated, I'm glamorous. That's an illusion, I think, because it's like you don't actually feel good after that. So like that's not really where the real glamour lies. I see it now the opposite, where like the true unique people, the true rebels of society question their relationship with alcohol, or at least don't just like go along with the herd. You know, it doesn't mean you never drink or something if you want to like have a drink every so often. But I think it's just that intentionality of actually questioning it instead of just doing what you've always done just to belong, just to get acceptance, just to fit in with people. Because it's the people who don't fit in that are the innovators and the leaders of our society. And I think that one thing that going alcohol free really trains you to do is to do that in other areas of your life. Most people, for example, have 9-to-5 jobs. Most people don't like their jobs. Most people are unhealthy. Most people are not actually fulfilled. So being in the like innovator minority of people who actually do what they love for a living and are healthy and are in love with their life and living their dream life, you're already going to be the outcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And isn't that something you want to be an outcast on anyway?
100%. Because then if you think of it that way, it's like, well, listen, I'm going to Bali next week, so you enjoy your martini over there. Like I'm doing other things. And I kind of like just notice also, it's like, to me, sometimes it's the circles you hang around, you know, because I have friends, a lot of friends who drink. I have a lot of friends who don't drink. And, you know, like as an adult, I don't know, like I guess I'm growing more confident in myself and just being like, hey, like I don't really hang around people where I feel like that pressure to drink. But I've definitely been in circles where like people are like, well, why aren't you drinking? And then just the way like you said, alcohol is so glamorized in the media. It's kind of like how like cigarettes were back in the day. I think of like I Love Lucy, and like they're all just like smoking, and you know, like the cigarette ads that used to be there all the time. And I'm like, but that's kind of killing you. And I feel like it's kind of the same way with alcohol. I'm like, it would be nice for it not to be so glamorized, but at the same time, you have to do you know, you have to you have to be very mindful about everything, I would say.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you with the social circle. Like people who usually have an issue with you not drinking subconsciously have their own insecurities about their relationship with alcohol. And if not everyone is buying into it and okay, we're all just going to feel a little worse tomorrow, it starts to make them question their own decisions to see someone standing out. You know what I mean? And I know I felt like that back when I drank too, is like I wanted everyone to do it so I wouldn't feel like as weird about it because I already had that cognitive dissonance. And sometimes people are just asking questions because they've thought about it too. So you never know where it's coming from. Like maybe someone's genuinely curious and you can unlock something for them. It's usually a sense of permission. Like we're actually not giving ourselves permission to do something we want to do. And when someone role models that for us in any area, whether it's going alcohol free or leaving their job or going to ball, you know what I mean? It just gives us that sense of permission. Like, oh my God, if she did that, maybe I could do that too.
An inspiration, really, you know?
Yeah.
How do you balance your personal journey with building a successful coaching business and writing a best-selling book? I mean, I kind of know your story, but I mean, first off, people are going to want to know, how did you write a book? But what was it like when you found out you were a freaking bestseller? Like, what? How did that happen?
You are so sweet. You know, I used to work in a cubicle. I had a 9 to 5. Drinking on the weekend was literally the highlight of my week. And so part of the work I did to unpack my relationship with alcohol was to answer the question, what really fulfills me? What is really fun for me? Like, what do I enjoy doing? What's going to give me a sense of meaning and a sense of purpose in this life? And no, it's not going to be found in a glass, right? And I think answering those questions really awoke me to my deeper purpose and the sense of passion. And so as I found that passion and I started my coaching business and writing my book, passion like is palpable. Passion like keeps you alive. Passion is like, woof, you know, you can handle so much because when you're passionate about something, you just have such a drive and such a motivation to do it. And so when I first started, I had a full-time job, right? Like I had to like manage that and find the time either waking up early or working on my lunch break or into the evening and stuff like that to build that. And then I just took a leap of faith and left that day job so that I could do this full time. And so many things started to unlock for me then because I was able to give it all my passion and all my attention. And I went after a book deal with a really big publishing house, HarperCollins. And, you know, when that happened, I was just like, damn, like I'm meant to share this work in the world. Like the angels, the universe, something is working on my behalf to get this out there. And I really just went through the process of following the steps. If anyone wants to write a book, feel free to like DM me after this conversation because I can like give you more of the process. But, you know, basically you follow that process. And once I got a book out into the world, it was essentially sharing everything that I had learned, not only for my journey, but also for coaching up until that point. So like basically it was like 100 things or 1,000 things even that happen when you take a break from alcohol to really cement how many changes will happen in your body, your mind, your soul. And then I gave people the full guide to be able to do so, to take a 2-month break from alcohol. And this I'd previously only been giving to my private clients. And I literally democratized it and put it in a book that's only $10 to $20 on Amazon, depending on like the Amazon pricing, you know? And as I did that, I just knew that I was sharing that impact and that methodology with more and more people around the globe. And I think my book, you know, in this space was one of the first alcohol-free books that not only was this modern new way of approaching and thinking about alcohol, but it was so positive and it was so focused on the kind of dream life that you're building that other books weren't really expressing at that point. And so I think it started just really resonating with people and I started getting that affinity and certain people just really, really were, you know, driven to it. And to this day, Beverly, I'll get emails or DMs from people that are like, I read your book and you changed my life. And I've never heard of them. I've like never seen them before. And I'm like, oh my God, like it's so, so fulfilling that a book can do that. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of people who want to like write books because it truly can reach so many people. And then as you're building relationships with those people, if you're building a business as well, like that's when you can start to get into more offers and more ways of working more intimately together, which is really smart as well. But it's always a lifelong dream of mine to have written a book, Beverly. And I almost didn't write it because like when I was younger, I loved to write. Like writing was really natural for me. And then right around the time I went to college and my drinking picked up, I kind of stopped writing. Like it just like dried up basically. And as a creative person, like, you know, writer's block is not fun. I could barely write anything anymore. And it wasn't, and I would even make these New Year's resolutions of like, this is the year I write a book. And I would, you know, dedicate like every week I'm going to write 30 minutes and it just wouldn't happen. It just didn't happen to the point where I was like almost depressed about it and just being like, you know what, I don't think you're ever going to write a book. You should just get over it. And that next year I ditched alcohol and all of a sudden my writing comes back with a flourish, right? And I easily wrote 60,000 words, which is just about the average of a novel. And I was like, holy shit, I think I can do a book, right?
Right.
And confidence that came back to me. So today I'm like really passionate about helping other people do that too, because I think we all have stories and messages and missions that are meant to be shared more broadly with the world. And a book is a really, really powerful vehicle to be able to do that, that like really transcends, you know, like even economic class, for example, like almost everyone in the developed world can afford a $10 or $20 book, you know, if you really think about it in that way.
Especially when it's a book that's going to benefit their whole entire life.
Yeah, exactly. And then like, you know, getting into the bestseller status was just a matter of like really knowing that like I have something important to share. And then, you know, all the strategies that are out there of like selling something and like really, you know, getting on different TV shows, for example, or into the media or on different podcasts has always been really important to me because it just, if you can just reach more people and that method, you know, really aligns with them and affects them, like you're right, their life will forever be changed.
100%. I mean, It's just incredible to think of how many people you can actually affect from your book. Like people you don't know, like people, like you said, just coming up to you, telling you that you've changed their lives. And even through like coaching and DMing, like all the things you do, it's like, it's just really inspiring. So right now, I'm already encouraging people to grab the book because it's a good one. It's absolutely incredible. Like this book it's one to freaking, I mean, it's the holidays. So obviously, it's the best time to grab it, but more about holiday drinking, not drinking, all that stuff to come. But another question that I had for you was like, why did you decide to specialize in coaching women specifically and in them changing their relationship with alcohol? You know, because it
Yeah.
could have been more geared towards like men or, you know, everybody. But why did you decide to specialize in women?
Yeah. And I will take like every so often we have a man come through our programs and stuff. So it's not like you're not allowed, but mostly I'm speaking to like my experience, I think, and that just attracts that type of person to me. And I think specifically like the type of person who comes into my world is really intuitive. Like they're getting these messages, whether
Mm.
they call it from the universe or from God or from their higher self, that like they're meant for more. They're meant for more, and this thing isn't serving them anymore. And it can feel really confusing in our society when we have made alcohol this kind of status symbol and something that you have to do to belong with people. And so I think that was really important. And the thing is as I've worked longer in my coaching business, I started noticing that, yeah, people would come for me with like alcohol, wanting to change that. But then all of a sudden they would go on to this journey of writing their own book, or they would launch their
Mhm.
own business, or they would go off and move somewhere beautiful. Like just all this really cool things started happening where people were discovering their deeper purpose.
They were starting to live their best lives.
Exactly. And as I got deeper into that, I noticed more people wanted to help other people. So I started my own coaching certification that certifies you as an alcohol-free coach, because so many people want to turn around and help the other person. And that's why I also do business coaching, because that is the same person just going higher and higher into that sense of mission and that sense of purpose. But what I found out is like, why don't I just start with one of those? Like, why am I not just a business coach, for example? And I
Mhm.
think to answer your question, Beverly, is that I've noticed time and time and time and time again that when you remove alcohol out of the picture, if you're a heavy drinker or even if you're a light drinker, it is going to magnetize your dreams so much faster, so much faster. It's almost like I actually don't really care if people drink or not. It's almost like I trick you into taking a break from alcohol, because I know that that's going to be the fastest road to your biggest dreams. It's going to be the biggest personal development change you're going to go through, such a big identity change,
Mm.
so much in your self-love, like esteem, your worth, your self-love, everything on that level will go up. Your confidence, your courage will go up. Going alcohol free gives you those gifts. And I'm not talking about quitting drinking forever. Maybe that's a right choice for someone, but I'm talking about taking like a solid time in your life to like change this relationship, remove it for a season in your life, whatever a season looks like for you, and really flourish and allow yourself to focus on your bigger dreams and your goals. And I just find that like 9 out of 10 people don't actually want to go back once they do that, because they get so high on building their dream lives instead. So I think what I really care about most is helping people truly live in their God-given purpose in this lifetime. And I think when you remove alcohol, that's the fastest way to do that. It's like a block that is just not allowing us to think as big as we're supposed to be thinking. It doesn't allow us to think that big into our vision. It, I think, hinders our intuition, our creativity. There's just something about it that takes away our innate power. And when you remove that, all of a sudden, like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's like why I focus on what I focus. Even though for me, now it's been like, almost 7 years that I haven't drank. I
Wow.
almost don't relate to that person anymore, but it's still
Yeah.
such an important part of my business and brand because of like how important I think it is for that identity shift. Plus, I just want to cultivate a community of people who don't really prioritize alcohol, whatever that means for someone, whether it's never drinking or drinking just very occasionally. I think that that's the kind of space where people are focusing on their bigger goals and dreams. And it's not just about partying or letting off steam with that alcohol, because oftentimes we're letting off steam with alcohol because we're not fulfilled with our lives. And that's like
Yeah.
the central question we actually have to answer.
And that can be a scary thing, you know? Like just
Yeah.
people, even I love the fact that like you just encourage people to take a break. You're not even saying like, "Oh, you have to quit forever," but just maybe stop, take a break and even see what happens and what changes in your life, you know?
Yeah,
Um
that's really important to me.
yeah. I know, like I've taken breaks in the past where like, I participate in dry January, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I'm like afterwards, like I've lost weight, my skin is really clear. I just feel super like extra motivated. But then I'm like, oh, and then Valentine's Day rolls around and I want a glass of wine. And not to say that like it totally hinders and stops everything for me, but at the same time, I definitely feel the change and just taking a break. And I think it's like important to for people just to hear that, like, just give it a try, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And even like, okay, 2 months will change your life. A month is going to be amazing. But if you're starting at like 3 days, like you might not feel like amazing after 3 days, but
Yeah,
it's
that doesn't
working
work.
out, right? Like you're training yourself to feel your emotions differently. Like it's going to grow you for sure. You're going to be a different person.
So motivating. On that note, like on the heels of that, can you share a story about a client who's made like a significant transformation through your coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like meet with women like this all the time, but like, someone who relatively is new to, going alcohol free, they've reevaluated it, they stopped drinking, they decide to like commit to a certain time frame like you're saying, it's not about quitting for forever, because at first our brain's never going to be on board with that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's almost like you have to experience how good it is before you're like, okay, maybe I don't want to go back. And so she did that. She lost like 50 pounds, I want to say, in 3 months, got off a lot of medications, decided that like her career at that point was like nice, but not the fulfilling purpose she was put on this planet to do. Decided she wanted to become a coach. So she joined our Empowered AF coach certification, where she got 5X certifications under her belt, and then started sharing her story way more widely and broadly and attracting just dream clients. And now she's being invited to speak on stages. And this all happened
Wow.
literally, all of it happened within less than like, I want to say 13 or 14 months, like just about a year of that many changes that someone can go through to become the leader of their life and leading other people from being completely unfulfilled and stuck and unhealthy. Like that to me is just mind boggling. And I see that over
Totally.
and over and over again. So that's like one example, but like literally that happens all the time in my world.
I'm so curious if it's the person I'm thinking about because I've been lucky enough to be a part of your empowerment groups, your embolden group. And I'm like, okay, I have somebody in mind and I don't want to put them on blast or on the spot, but I'm like, I've seen people like totally transform their lives. And I'm like, oh, that's her. I'm like, okay, maybe I don't need to have a glass of wine on the weekend because these people are doing this and I'm over here. Like, I mean, I'm proud of my accomplishments. You actually helped me, get my podcast, just the motivation and the questions and the things I learned throughout the group, just to be motivated. But to see people grow, I'm like, okay, I got to do more. I need to step it up because it's really powerful. My show is about people purposely finding their purpose and living their best lives. What role do you believe that self-compassion plays in the journey of personal growth and purpose?
Yeah. I think like you said too, is like, even comparing yourself to other people can be like a sneaky way that like we're only going to discourage ourselves. Once we get into the energy of discouragement, that's not where passion lives. That's not where motivation lives. That's not where like our best creative ideas live at all. And so like I think first of all, the only place we should compare ourselves to is just a past version of ourselves, And there's no way, if you're a reflective, intuitive person, there's no way that you're not always growing and becoming a better version of yourself, unless you're completely plateaued. But I don't think you'd even be listening to this podcast if that was the
Right.
case. Like, I think we're always growing, and the lessons that come in life are shaping who we're meant to become all the time. You know what I mean? And so I think that compassion for like, I think when you're really ambitious, what happens is you have these huge goals and dreams. And the thing is that I think for the most part, those goals and dreams are actually your destiny. I don't think the problem was that you did such a big vision. The vision is beautiful. The problem that we often do is the time. Time is the only constant. So oftentimes I meet with people who want to write a best-selling book or have a really successful coaching business or want to leave their day job, and they get discouraged too fast and too easily because it's not happening as quickly as they would like. And again, time is the only constant. All of the stuff you want is available to you, I promise. It's just a matter of time. And oftentimes we like that self-compassion is missing because we think everything should be faster and we're not doing good enough and all that stuff. And I think if we recognize, this quote is often repeated by Tony Robbins, but Bill Gates actually said it first. we overestimate what we can accomplish in a year, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. And so I think if
Wow.
we made our time horizon a little different and actually like knew that like, yes, let's be ambitious and work towards things and all that kind of stuff, but gave ourselves the grace for some things and some projects to be more long term. My book took me 4 years to write,
Oh,
from the
wow.
very conception to getting it in a bookstore. 4 years. That's a long time, but you know what? Those 4 years were going to pass by anyway. No matter
Yeah.
what, 4 years are going to pass in my life. So would I rather be working on my biggest passion, or would I rather give up before I even start? You know what I mean?
Wow, yes. I mean, you just said several things that totally like just clicked in me. First, just thinking about like, don't compare yourself to others, compare yourself to your former self. Like, I think if people really just take that in, that is so powerful because it is hard not to be like, oh, well, she did this and she got that, and look at her. And oh man, I'm just doing this little, I don't know, this little podcast and I'm not even making any money and I'm not doing, but it's like, wait, but last year, I wanted to make a podcast. I didn't have a podcast. I didn't know what I was doing. And it's like the little baby steps that actually lead to that huge like moment that you've been waiting for. And I'm so glad that you said it took you 4 years to write a book. So people who are listening to this, they're not like thinking, I can do this in a month. And I'm going to be like Karolina, because that's not just the way it happens. And I think self-compassion is just a huge part of that.
Yeah. And I can be hard on myself too, because I compare myself with people who are like in another stratosphere.
You're like, I have to be Oprah.
Exactly. But like, I have to recognize too, and this is what I teach in my coaching programs, is like when we anchor in our wins and we make our wins what we focus on more than like our disappointments or our frustrations, we literally have more wins in our life. It's actually really important to like really allow yourself to like feel into those things, celebrate the smallest little things, because like it is important. It is meaningful. You are making progress.
100%. It's like sometimes I said this in a prior episode, but like sometimes I just give myself a little pat on the back because I'm like, ooh, you did a good job, Just the little things, celebrate the small wins, like you said. I'm wondering, how do you incorporate mindfulness, manifestation, and meditation into your daily routine? And how do you recommend clients to do the same?
Yes.
I know you're big on like mindfulness and manifestations. I have been in like the meetings where we're just like manifesting things and I'm like, this actually works. It's really cool.
Yeah. So like looking back on my journey, there was a version of me that woke up at 5:30 in the morning that would go downstairs and would put on this incredible playlist of music and just dance while I was making coffee. And I would dance as if I was celebrating the most incredible wins. I was dancing as if I got an incredible book deal, as if like 10 clients just signed up to work with me, all this stuff. I was a beginner. None of that stuff was happening, right? Like I was celebrating these things before they happened. And I think that that is one of the biggest things. And that's just one little example. I would have passwords set up where I'm like, book deal is coming. Book deal is coming. It was literally my password for so many things. And it was so important for me to get my subconscious. The reason why we do this manifestation stuff is it gets your conscious mind knows what you want, but your subconscious mind is programmed with these negative and limiting beliefs. So how you get your subconscious mind on board is these little manifestation principles and rituals where you're actually baking it into your everyday. And I think anywhere from like, having some quiet time in the morning to like really like set the tone for the day, maybe meditate, maybe do some visualization in a journal or in your mind or something can be really important before all the little emergencies and the urgencies that come up in our day is really important. I also really love connecting with nature. So I have this practice where I'll look up at the night sky. And like, there's these pivotal moments in my life where like I'm in Bali on my first retreat and I look up at the night sky. And then, I'm like, had a $225,000 launch and I look up at the night sky. So it's like these moments where I'm really anchoring just the beauty of the world. Like the fact that, we're on a spinning rock, like in the middle of a universe where like nothing else is inhabitable. Like we live in paradise, literally. And I think we forget a lot about the magic of like being here alive at this time in this place and just kind of anchoring that in and knowing that like anything is possible for me. I'm here for a reason, I think is really important. And I have these little rituals and symbols in my life and my house that do that. But also I think that quiet time, either with yourself, I like the morning, but it really can be anytime, or out in nature, I think is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I know every time I'm out in nature and like I just feel like that oneness. I like to hike a lot. I say I like to hike. I actually like I don't know. I like it in theory, but then when I'm actually like halfway up the mountain, I'm like, oh my gosh. But just like looking around and seeing the mountains around me, or just like, I don't know, looking at the stars at night, like you were saying, like I never thought about actually kind of pulling that into a manifestation. Like I'm looking at these stars and I'll be looking at these stars in Hawaii soon or whatever. And I think sometimes being really specific with the manifestation, but I never thought about it that way. Like I know I used to wake up early every once in a while and I would either stretch where I felt like it was my meditation time and kind of just be zen, or I'd wake up early and just like pray for a moment. And I don't know, even just starting the day, it made it much more peaceful and kind of helped me connect to myself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important, because otherwise our focus and our attention is always just going to be robbed from us by whatever is like coming up, and I think it's a really meaningful practice to put in our day.
1,000,000%. Gosh, I only had a couple more questions, and now I'm like, this whole book of everything is like opening up my mind. Before I even jump to my last couple of questions, I'm wondering because I've been in your groups and I've read your manuals and things like that, but I'm just like, can you break down basically how alcohol really is a toxin? And it's kind of a poison, and people don't think about that. Like when we're just like drinking away and enjoying, like I feel like there's a reason why our bodies are reacting the way they're reacting to it. Can you speak a little
Yeah.
bit on that?
And I think that's so important because a lot of people just think there's something like wrong with them or, something like that, that they like just feel that way after alcohol. But truly, I think in 100 years, we're going to look back and be like, we were drinking that? Like that was going
Huh.
into our But basically, yeah, alcohol is ethanol. It is the same like compound that is found in car fuel. It's found in paint thinner. It's found in your hand sanitizer. Like you cannot drink 100 proof alcohol or you would go blind. Like it is
Oh my
impossible, right?
gosh.
So like our bodies are not meant to process that. And back in history, obviously, we fermented things to make like water palpable because like water was so back, had so much bacteria and stuff. And a lot of the alcohol we had in human history was really low percentage actually, and it wasn't that as available and as convenient as it is today. And so what we started doing is drinking so much more in the last from 1990 to about 2020. Women started drinking more than any other era in human history. And it became
Wow.
so normalized. It's not only just like the occasional bottle of wine with dinner. Now it's every day. I have my mommy juice. I go to soccer
Mm.
practice. Like it has become so ingrained in our society. And it's just because of the alcohol-free movement now or the sober curious movement that's kind of giving more attention to this alternate lifestyle away from it. So alcohol not only is this toxin that your body, like, it's paint thinner. So your body's like, we need this out of our body. So it's working overtime to be able to process that out. Your liver's working overtime to do that. You can't actually metabolize anything else when your body is metabolizing alcohol. So if you ate
Wow.
food, the carbs, the protein, the fat, all of that gets stored away because your body has to process the alcohol out first. So oftentimes drinking can lead to weight gain in that sense. There's so many other things that happen in your brain. So for example, your brain, when it drinks alcohol, some people think it helps you fall asleep. And what actually happens in your brain is your brain wave is going into the same brain wave as you are in a coma.
Oh my
You're not
God.
sleeping. You're not sleeping when you drink alcohol. Your brainwave is in the same wave as a coma. And what happens too is that the REM sleep that we need every single night, we usually get about 5 to 6 cycles of it. We only get 1 to 2 if we drink alcohol, just 1 glass. So even if someone like
Wow.
gets normally 8 hours of sleep a night, they're not getting any of the REM sleep they need. They're going to be exhausted. They're going to wake up tired, plus the tiredness from having to process that alcohol. There's so many other things it affects. So it enhances our cancer risk. It's really bad for our heart, which is kind of like a misnomer because everyone thinks that red wine's good for your heart. It increases your blood pressure though. It increases inflammation, which increases cholesterol, and it makes your heart like beat faster without any related exercise. So it actually makes it sag over time. So what's cool is like, yeah, all of these things sound really like scary and all that kind of stuff, but they've proven that just a 5-week break off alcohol will change so rapidly, do so much healing on a cellular level in your body. Your blood pressure will go down, your cholesterol will go down, your brain gray matter will start to grow, cells will start to regenerate, your liver fat will shrink down by 15%, cancer markers will go down in your body. So I think for me, it's less about the scare tactics of alcohol and more about like, this is what happens to your body when you take a break from alcohol. Like it is really powerful how much healing can be done. And I think it's just so sad to me that there's so many people on medication all the way from, all these different preventative medications, diabetes medications, when really like the biggest like thing that we can do to change is just to have more education around what alcohol is actually doing for the body. And even in mental health too, like alcohol completely depletes your dopamine like levels. It completely makes it so that their brain can't catch dopamine anymore and feel it anymore. It lowers GABA, it lowers serotonin. So when I went alcohol free, my mood was so much higher than it used to be when I drank, just because that was my natural mood, and alcohol was blocking all those like happiness neurotransmitters. So if anyone's interested in more of this, like loves to geek out on this information, I list this information and so much more in my book, Euphoric, because really like the more we know, I think like sometimes with anything I'm trying to change in my life, like the more I know about how it's really affecting me, from like sugar or watching TV and stuff, it kind of starts to make that thing less appealing.
Yeah.
Like I'm the type of learner that needs to like learn some of those things first before I just say like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Like I need to like really understand what it's doing for me, and it starts to become less appealing, and then desire naturally goes down because you're like, I don't want to like dopamine to lower or something like that. You know what I mean? Or like
Not at all.
all the cortisol your alcohol releases as well. I get into that more in my book, but every drink you have releases more cortisol and adrenaline in your system to kind of fight back to the alcohol. So all the stress, all the like mental load we're carrying, I promise you half of it could be from alcohol and we just don't even know.
That's wild. It's like, it's just so interesting to think about how your body just can recuperate just for like a 5-week break. And now I'm like, okay, when you said it's like drinking paint thinner, now I'm like, oh my God. Like I'm thinking of like, oh, well, if I have a glass of wine, and now I'm like, ew, but if I have a glass of wine, that like totally just kind of shifted things in my mind, honestly. And I'm going to really hold on to that because that's disgusting. Who wants to drink paint thinner? That's wow. Duh. I don't like that. So thank you for enlightening everybody with that one. Where do you see the alcohol-free movement heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
What I really love too is like, I'm not a prohibitionist. Like, I don't need the whole world to stop drinking. It's not about that at all. But I think what's happened is that we created a society where like drinking was a code for adulthood, for independence, for belonging, for acceptance, to the point that someone had to feel like an outcast if they don't drink. And I think that's wrong. And I think that there's a lot of younger generations that don't like that either, that are like, wait, I don't want to have to drink to be accepted by my friends. There's something off about that. I really believe in choice. I believe in really doing what's right for all of us, that every single one of us gets to decide. And the thing is that like, a lot of times you think, yeah, but I have a choice. I'm choosing to drink wine. Like I like it. But it wasn't really a choice because it was a habit that was ingrained in you when you were younger. So it's just, you're playing out the same pattern over and over again. And think of how genius that is for the alcohol industry. They basically get young people to drink and then ingrain that habit for the rest of their lives. And they don't really have a choice later because it's just, they're doing the status.
It's their habit. Yeah, the alcohol companies are like, got them.
Right. And then maybe that's how they make money. And so I just see a society where truly we have all of the intentionality around it. You go to a bar, half the people aren't drinking. You know what I mean? You go to a college party, half people aren't drinking. There's all these alcohol-free beverages available. And I think as we move on in time, like they're going to invent something healthier and better for us, like that still has that sense of fun. I just don't see us drinking as a society in like 100 years from now, as we get more like health conscious and technologically advanced. I don't see it. But for now, I think the alcohol-free movement is just giving permission for more people to question, to explore a different way, to feel accepted in a new way, and to focus on bigger things in their life. Instead of worrying about a beverage or how much am I going to drink or can I drink tonight? It's like, I think as a society, if we focused on our purpose and living our best lives, like all of society, we'd be better.
1,000,000%. I mean, I really agree with you there. It's interesting because I do feel like the younger generation now, they're like more woke than a lot of us were back then, and like just following those habits of just like, okay, I'm 21, so I'm supposed to drink and I get to drink. And like now it's interesting that I've seen like a lot of alcohol-free bars pop up. And at first I was like, well, why do they call it a bar? And like, does it work the same? And I've never been to one, but I can only imagine like all the wonderful fun concoctions they have there. Like I've ordered drinks that don't have alcohol and I'm like, I don't want an alcohol drink, just make me something special. And like, it's delicious and you don't feel like crap. You still feel like a part of the group, if anyone's judging or looking at you, whatever, and it's so much fun and it's such an interesting thing to explore,
Yeah, for sure. And there's so much coming up in that space too.
100%. This is a big one. So As the new year approaches, can you give people actionable steps if they want to try and test the waters of becoming alcohol free?
Yes. So I love how we talked about this in the sense of thinking of it as an experiment. Think of it like you're not taking away alcohol for forever. You're just trying it on for size, right? You're experimenting with an alcohol-free lifestyle. And I think honestly, like a dry January is amazing. I think the sweet spot is 2 months though. Like you're going to see a lot more changes in 2 months than just 1 month, but wherever you're starting is going to be amazing too. And now the whole point is not just to remove the alcohol and to feel deprived and that you're FOMO and you feel all this like, willpower to not drink. The whole point is to start like questioning your beliefs around alcohol. A lot of times we don't actually want to have a drink. We want to have a feeling we believe alcohol will give us. And that is really powerful because if we believe alcohol gives us a feeling, one, we can deconstruct that. A lot of times alcohol isn't actually giving us the feeling we think we want. And two, we can give ourselves those feelings on our own without alcohol. So for example, if I wanted to feel confident, alcohol wasn't making me confident. It was just a little band-aid. Like it wasn't actually changing my intrinsic sense of confidence, right? If anything, I embarrassed myself more with drinking and had wine stains all over my teeth. And if I really want to feel confident, that's something I can give myself, maybe by practicing putting myself out there or getting more comfortable in my skin or doing some more, personal development to feel more worthy. Like that's a feeling I can give myself intrinsically. Same thing with something as simple as relaxing, right? Like alcohol actually doesn't relax the human body. It stresses the human body out, but we can give ourselves other rituals, even by pouring just a non-alcoholic drink to signal to our brain that it's time to relax. So I think that's a powerful thing is like, we're going to deconstruct the things we believe about alcohol, but we're also going to meet our needs in new, healthy ways. And I do run a dry bootcamp program. It's actually only 21 days. So you don't even have to go a whole month without alcohol, but 21 days of doing that exactly, of meeting your needs in a new, beautiful ways and kind of changing how you subconsciously relate to alcohol is what slowly removes the desire. And so that's my goal for people is not that they can't drink or they feel like I'm not allowed to, but like, just like with cigarettes, like most of us don't have that desire to smoke, if we used to smoke or something, or we never did. And we're just kind of like, ew, that's weird. Like that's kind of the goal. Like, how do we just make alcohol a non-issue? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like you said, it's not deprivation, it's just like an experiment. Take it one step at a time and just check it out. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Before we get into your coaching offers and things like that, is there anything else like you want to just reflect on or talk about or leave our listeners with?
Yeah, well, I think the book is a really good place to get started. Like I share so many good tips in there. I have mocktail recipes and stuff like that. And then yeah, the dry boot camp I'm pretty sure is coming up when this episode airs. So if anyone wants to do the experiment, it's like a really, quick and easy time. 21 days is not that big of the deal. And it's also not about being perfect. You know what I mean? Like just trying to take a break from alcohol is really valiant and you're going to learn so much about yourself in the journey.
100%. While we're talking about Dry January and your boot camp, can you please tell my listeners all of the coaching and like your website and everything that you have to offer because there's lots of good stuff there.
Yeah, so I do help people change their relationship with alcohol. So you can either start with Dry Boot Camp or my program, my signature program, Become Euphoric. I also help people become coaches, especially in the alcohol-free space, or I also do mindset, success, NLP, and hypnosis coaching. So all of those 5 certifications come in one program. It's called my Empowered AF Coach Certification Program, and that one launches twice a year, and it is so amazing. We have a live retreat in there too. It's so good. I also do business coaching too. So I'm really interested in helping people with big visions and big missions get their word out there into the world. And so my Thought Leader Mastermind is also available for, sober, curious entrepreneurs who really want to speak on stages and write books and really become thought leaders in their industry. So it's kind of like my whole suite. I really have the alcohol-free lifestyle and entrepreneurship collide in my brand and my niche because I'm really passionate about both. And I just see so many people unlock that entrepreneurial fire when they go alcohol-free. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
It's fantastic. Can you please tell everybody your website?
Yeah, it's euphoricaf.com.
And your IG as well.
At euphoric.af.
Very easy, guys. Don't forget that one. Of course, I'll have it in the show notes. Real quick before my last little bit with you, can you reflect on just one of your God, I was going to say workshops, but your retreats, because I've seen them and I am like so like salivating at the mouth. I will be at one for sure, but like maybe a couple that you've done in the past. They all look so empowering and amazing.
Yeah, I'm saving your seat for the next one. So I love traveling so much. So, I've hosted retreats in Bali, Mexico, Costa Rica, in the United States as well. And it's just something where bringing together like-minded people for like a week, like there's so much cool online learning we can do, but like immersions, like in-person experiences will change your life. You will come home a different version of yourself for sure.
I love that. I mean, I want to go to the one in Bali because I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm just like, I'm gonna be looking at the moon now and being like, Bali, here I am. I'm coming.
In your private pool,
Girl.
outside your villa.
Yes, you're speaking my language with my non-alcoholic drink, living a life, socializing, networking with other women or whoever's there, eating the good food, just living the best life like you are now. Wow, God, this was fantastic. Can you please leave my guest with a mantra, a quote, or words to live by?
Yeah, so this one's not mine. It's from Tony Robbins, but it's something that's really been meaningful to me. And it's that life is happening for us. Instead of seeing challenges or setbacks as things that like, oh, this sucks, but like really understanding how is this shaping me as a person? And I think like, I had a big challenge in my life around alcohol. Like even if I wasn't, heavy drinking vodka in the morning or something, it was still something that took up so much brain space. And like, I always felt not very proud of myself and like I let myself down and I'm like, why am I going through this? Why can't this just not be a thing for me? And I never realized it's because it was part of my purpose. Like I was meant to go through that so I can now help other people with it. Wow. And I think that like a lot of things I go through, if I have that mindset, that perspective that maybe someone in my audience needs help with this and me having this like hard experience is going to be able to like help them, then it's going to be worth it. No one wants to learn from a unicorn that's like, everything's so easy for me and everything always works out in my life. Like, I think our challenges show us not only how strong we are, but also like we're supposed to help other people through them.
Yes. Oh, God. I'm like, that's pretty much the purpose of this podcast here. You have been so enlightening. I always love speaking with you. I feel like I learn something every time. For those who want to keep this conversation going, slide into Karolina's DMs, hit up her website. I wholeheartedly think she's a fantastic coach and someone everyone can learn from. And Karolina, thank you so much for being here today. This is just perfect in time for January, you guys. Try out her 21-day dry January. I definitely will be participating in dry January. So I just thank you so, so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and, be a part of this.
Beverly, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. And to bring this topic to your audience, I think it's just such a game changer. Like it can make such a big difference. And it's not like a bad or wrong thing. It's not about morals. It's nothing about like shaming people who drink or anything. It's just like, can we start questioning things in our lives more and find that maybe that is the like source of our biggest freedom and our biggest sense of autonomy is like reevaluating the things that maybe just don't serve us anymore.
Right. And the empowerment that you gain from learning that.
Yeah.
Gosh. Thank you so much once again. All right, guys, this has been Beverly Explains It All, and have a happy new year.
Yay.